Hello guys, today we're going to study 3.6. In this video we're going to work on polynomial inequality. First we're going to look at the definition of the polynomial inequality. So if I have something like this, if I have f of x less than, greater, less equal than, or greater equal than 0, so where our f is a polynomial function, so anytime we see this form, we're going to say this is a polynomial inequality. So let's take a look at the graph. If you look at this graph, okay, so if you here, so you can see this blue part, right? So they're above the x-axis, right? So because it's above the x-axis, we're going to say greater than 0. So if you look at this portion, we see that is when you're going to have less than, all right, right there. If you have less than 0, that means we're talking about it's below than 0, which is below than x-axis. Okay, so that is how we see polynomial inequality on the graph. Okay, let's look at the first example. So example 1, we have solve a polynomial inequality. So solve and graph the solution set on a real number line. Okay, so here we have a polynomial inequality. Okay, so I'm going to write down what we're going to do step by step. Okay, in step 1, we're going to rewrite as f of x greater than 0 form. So in this case, we're going to rewrite this as 2x squared plus x and then minus 15 greater than 0. Step 2, we're going to solve for f of x equal to 0, which means we're going to set this whole thing to 0, then we're going to solve it. So in this case, we can actually factor this. We're going to factor this. We're going to get x plus 3 and 2x minus 5 equal to 0. So we're going to solve this. We're going to get x plus 3 equals 0, or we have a 2x minus 5 equals 0. We're going to solve this. We're going to get x equal to negative 3, and we get here is x equal to 5 over 2. Step 3, we locate the boundary points on the number line. So negative 3 and 5 over 2 is the boundary points. Let's go ahead and draw a number line. So we're going to have a number line, so we're going to have negative 3. And 5 over 2 just 2.5, so I'm going to say this is probably around 0, then this is my 5 over 2. So when I'm writing these boundary points, okay, so I had to go back to look for a minute. So we realize, okay, so what they want us to look is greater than 0, okay, so it's greater than 0 doesn't include, it's not like greater equal than 0. Because it's greater than 0, we're going to have an open circle for those boundary points. Okay. Step 4, we're going to choose a testing point in each interval. So we're going to say this is each interval. I'm going to cut this right in 3 pieces. So here we're going to have, we're just use negative 4. Okay, obviously I'm not super accurate. So I'm going to also use, let's write all the testing points above the number line. So just distinguish them, okay? I'm going to write negative 4. I'm going to test this. So I'm going to start here. So I'm going to evaluate f of negative 4. Okay, we're going to put negative 4 back in here. Okay, and back in this function. So we're going to have 2 times negative 4 squared plus negative 4 minus 15. Okay, so then we're going to get 2 times, this is 16, that's 32, minus 4 minus 15. So this is going to give us 13, which is greater than 0. Okay, so what's happening here is we can say this interval is greater than 0. Okay, which is what we're looking for, right? So look at this. Okay, that's what you're looking for. Okay, so we said this interval actually worked. This interval is working. Okay, let's test the next point. So next point we're going to test is 0. I'm going to test f of 0, and then plug in this again. So you can do the calculation. We're going to get 2 times 0 squared plus 0 minus 15. In this case, we're going to get, you can evaluate this and get negative 15, right? It's less than 0. So the main part we want to know is it greater than 0 or less than 0? You don't have to calculate the exact number, okay? That is not required. So we're going to say this is negative, okay? It's because we're here going to get less than 0, which is not really what we're looking for. So we're going to move on to next. And then we're going to test this point. I'm just going to write, let's just test 3, okay? Of course, you can test the 100 if you want to, all right? So I'm just pick a 3, right? Any number in this interval that work. So I'm going to evaluate f of 3, so I'm going to plug in. So we're going to get the 6 is greater than 0, okay? So on your test, if you want to, you can find the evaluate exact number. If on your test, you're just going to write this way, okay, like this, okay, that will be totally fine, because the main part is we're looking for greater than 0, so that is greater than 0, which is match exactly what we're looking for, because the function right here, okay, is what we're looking for, is greater than 0. This match is greater than 0. That's why we say this interval also is your part of the solution. Then our step 5, we're just going to write the solution. Okay, so in this case, we can write this solution as, okay, let's see how we write solution. So if you look right here for the first interval, so we started, if the all the way to the left is negative infinity, right? And the all the way right is positive infinity, correct? So I'm going to always write our solution as, so to step 5, I'm going to write solution as, we always start from the left to the right, okay? That will be negative infinity to negative 3, because it's an open circle, right? We're going to have parenthesis, and then we also have another piece of solution is from 5 over 2 to the positive infinity, okay? Again, the reason why I'm using this parenthesis, the parenthesis for here and here, because we have an open circle here. Also because your original question was greater, is not greater equal. If we say greater than equal, then you have to use a bracket, okay? All right, that is the steps for this question. Let's try another one. So example 2, we have another one. So let's just look at this. So we have 4x squared less equal than 1 minus 2x. Okay, so we know the step 1, we need to rewrite this, okay, where our right side is 0, so we're going to move everything on the left side. That will be 4x squared, okay, plus 2x minus 1 less equal than 0. We're going to rewrite this equal to 0, and then we're going to solve this. So let's take a look at how we solve this. Can we factor it? So if you look at this, you can try it, but we really can't factor it in this case, okay? So we have to remember our quadratic formula. I'm going to write right here, x equal to negative b plus minus square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. So you need to make sure to memorize that, okay? So I'm going to write this, our a is 4, our b is 2, and our c is negative 1. So I can just plug inside my quadratic formula. So we evaluate this. That will be under the square root. Okay, that will be 2 squared is 4. 4 minus minus become plus. That will be 4 plus 16. That is the square root of 20 over 8. So then we look at square root of 20. We can simplify this. That is just actually 4 times 5, right? So we can simplify this as 2 square root of 5. That will be negative 2 plus minus 2 square root of 5 over 8. And then because we have this, okay, we have negative 2, 2, and 8. So I can simplify this as x equal to negative 1 plus minus square root of 5 over 4. I can reduce this by 2. Okay, because I'm trying to put it on a number line, okay, in this form, I don't really know what is x. I'm going to just write it down because I can't draw this on the number line, right? So I'm going to evaluate this really quick. So we're going to have, if I have -1 plus square root of 5 over 4, that is around 0.3. Okay, so we have another one is around -1 minus square root of 5 over 3. That is around -0.8. Again, the reason why we're doing this is because we want to draw this on the number line. So I'm just trying to remind myself this is -0.8 and this is 0.3. So because, okay, if we look right here, because the original question was less equal than, okay, remember what you're looking for is less equal than. Because of that, my boundary points, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a solid circle, okay, because it's less equal than. So we basically cut this into 3 intervals. So I'm going to pick some testing points. I'm testing -1 in this case, okay. So I'm going to write f of -1. So I'm going to take a look, okay. Remember, you got to bring this -1 back all the way to here, okay, where we write is less equal than 0 form, okay. You got to go back to this form right here, okay. So we're going to plug in. So because we only care very much is going to be either less or greater than 0. So I don't have to do this step by step, okay? If you want to, you can do this just for yourself, okay? But it's not required. So I'm thinking, okay, -1 squared, that's just a positive, that will be 4. 4, then we're going to -2, -1. So we're going to end up with is greater than 0. So I'm going to write it right here. So I'm going to have a, okay, positive, okay? Is it that's your solution? No, it's not, because we're looking something right here, the yellow part, right? We're looking for less than equal than 0. So then we're going to test the next points. We're doing the same thing for all the points, okay? So I'm going to plug in 0 in, and now I'm going to thinking, okay, 4 times 0 squared, that will give me 0, and then plus 2 times 0 is going to be 0, and then -1, that will give me less than 0. Okay, so I put it here, I have a less than 0. And then I look right here. Because we're looking for less than 0, so that is actually my solution, right? So this portion is my solution. I'm going to test the positive one, so you can do the same thing. You're going to get greater than 0. So again, the greater is not what we're looking for. That is not your solution. So our solution is the interval from the -0.8 to 0.3. So I'm going to, because it's close the circle, so I'm going to say, okay, then I'm going to write this solution as, we're going to write a bracket, okay, I'm going to write the exact answer that corresponding, the -0.8 just going to be -1 minus square root of 5 over 3, and then 2, -1 plus square root of 5 over, I'm sorry, that is not 3, actually. I have been making a mistake. Okay, I apologize for this. So let me fix it really quick. So here is also is a 4. Okay, so I just fixed it, the bracket. So in your homework, sometimes the answer key they write like this. Let me just write it down. They say your solution key is like this. If they look at the graph, so they use that, okay? Either way, there's the same answer. All right, so make sure you go back to look. Sometimes we can't factor. You just have to use the quadratic formula. All the other things is exactly the same process, okay? All right, let's go ahead and look at next. This is our last example. So here we have x to the third power plus x squared less equal than 4x plus 4. Again, the process is similar, okay? The process is actually exactly the same. So we will write this, and then we're going to turn everything in this form. We said step 1, we'll turn this form. So I'm going to subtract 4x and then minus 4 and less equal than 0. Okay, that is our step 1. Then we said step 2, just in case you forgot, So we're going to write it to a equation. We're going to turn this whole thing to set it to 0 and then solve it. So in this case, we actually can solve it by grouping. So I can, for this group, I'm going to factor x squared out, and then what I have left is x plus 1. And then for this group right here, the second group, I'm going to factor -4 out, and then what left is x plus 1 equals 0. And then for next step, I'm going to factor x plus 1 out. Okay, so I'm going to write it right here. And then what is left for the first term is x squared, and then we have a -4 left equals 0. And then you realize, okay, I have a x squared minus 4, so what I can do, I can actually continue factor this, right? So that is a squared minus a b squared form, correct? So that is, hopefully you remember this, and -2. Okay, we don't forget to bring that. Okay, that will be x plus 1 and x plus 2 and x minus 2. Once we have this, we can just solve each piece. For the first one, we give -1, then we're going to have -2, and we have 2. Okay, that are my boundary points. I'm going to put them on the number line. So now we have -1, -2, 2 as my boundary points. Then I'm going to think, okay, so what am I going to use for the boundary points? Is it closed circle or open circle? Okay, so you go back to look. So since we have less equal, so because the equal is there, so that's why we're going to have a solid circle. Okay, that means you include those points. And then once you have this, we're going to cut them to, in this case, right, we're going to 1, 2, 3, 4 interval, right? So here is my first interval, second, and then third and fourth interval. We're going to pick a testing point for each interval. So I'm going to start with the left side. I'm going to pick -3. So I'm going to test -3. Again, we have to go all the way to here. So then recall, okay, the whole thing, what you're looking for. We're going to testing this. What you want is less equal than. Okay, so we're going to test this. If it's less than 0, then that is your solution. If it's greater than 0, that is not your solution. Okay, so we're going to bring the -3 in there. So we're going to look. So if I put this everything inside the calculator, so what I get is going to be -10. So the main thing is we actually really don't care about -10. We only need to know this is less than 0. Then I realize since it's less than 0, that is actually my solution, right? Because that matches that yellow part, which is highlighted. So then we'll go to the next. And then we're also going to test a -1.5. So this we're going to get greater than 0. So I'm going to do the rest. Then we're going to pick probably 0 right here. Okay, and then it's going to be end up less than 0. And then we're going to pick a 3 right here. And then that's going to give us greater than 0. Okay, you can take your time to look at this. So anyway, okay, the pink color is our solution. So let's write it down as interval form so that our solution, we know this side is the -infinity. Okay, so we're going to start with -infinity, always a parenthesis. And then -2, because it's a closed circle, we're going to have included. And then we'll have another interval is our solution as well. That will be from -1 to 2 bracket. So that is our final solution. Thank you very much for watching the video. I'll see you guys next time.